He was one of the wealthiest men in the city, yet blind to the storm raging inside his own mansion. His little girl, born with Down syndrome, was quietly suffering under the cruelty of the woman who called herself her stepmother. And when a young housekeeper dared to protect her, she was framed as a thief and thrown out in disgrace. But the truth would not stay buried. The child herself, fragile yet fearless, spoke the words that unraveled every lie. What happens when innocence exposes deceit? When a billionaire must choose between the woman he married and the daughter he nearly lost? Stay with me through this story and tell me in the comments what you would have done. And if you believe no child should ever be silenced, tap like, share this story, and subscribe. That's how these voices are heard. Stop making a scene. Your father will see what kind of child you are. The harsh voice echoed from the second floor of the grand house, followed by the sharp slam of a door and the muffled sobs of a little girl. At the back entrance, Alina froze, her first day as the new housekeeper already heavy with dread. Carmen, the older maid, shook her head and whispered, "The lady of the house is angry again. Careful, dear, this job isn't easy." But Elena's eyes had already fixed on the staircase where fear and desperation called her name. She climbed the steps 2 at a time, following the cries that clawed at her chest. At the top of the hall, an elegantly dressed blonde woman adjusted her hair with a forced smile. "You must be the new girl. Perfect. I'm leaving. The child's just throwing another tantrum. When she calms down, you can begin." Without waiting for a reply, she swept past, heels striking the marble as she disappeared out the door. The sobbing upstairs did not stop. Elena pressed her palm against the closed door, softened her voice, and said, "Hey, little one, may I come in? I promise I won't scold you." The crying eased, just enough. She turned the handle slowly. Inside, a small girl with brown hair sat curled against the wall, her cheeks streaked with tears, her eyes swollen. "Hi, sweetheart. What's your name?" The child hesitated, her lips trembling. "Isabella," she whispered. Isabella pointed to her stomach. "Hurts." Elena knelt beside her. "Are you hungry?" A timid nod. Elena checked her watch. 1 in the afternoon. "Did you eat breakfast?" "She forgot," the girl said simply. Elena swallowed hard. How could a mother forget? She reached out her hand. "Come, let's find you something delicious." For a moment, Isabella hesitated. Then her small fingers slipped into Elena's, a fragile trust beginning to form. Elena crouched low, her voice gentle as she coaxed the frightened child from the corner. "Sweetheart, will you come with me?" Isabella's eyes darted to the door, as though expecting the woman to return at any moment. Then, with a tiny nod, she reached out her small hand. Elena's fingers closed around it, steady and warm, leading her down the silent staircase. Elena opened the pantry, her heart twisting when she saw rows of untouched food. Yet this little girl sat hungry upstairs. She quickly sliced bread, added cheese, poured a glass of juice. Isabella climbed onto the stool, swinging her legs nervously. "Look," Elena said, setting the plate down. "What do you see?" Isabella counted softly. 1, 2. Her face lit up when Elena clapped her hands. "That's right. How far can you go?" The girl whispered numbers, stumbling but determined until her eyes glowed with pride. Elena smiled. "Brilliant! You are so smart!" It was as if no one had ever told her that before. Isabella's small fingers clutched the sandwich, and she ate as if afraid it might vanish. Between hurried bites, she whispered, "She says I am bad." Elena's chest ached. "She is wrong.
You are precious." For a few blessed minutes, laughter filled the air. Isabella showed off dolls with missing shoes, blocks with faded paint, and then her crayons. She pressed a paper into Elena's hand and drew quick lines. A small figure curled on the floor, another towering above with a sharp face. Elena's stomach tightened, but she said nothing. She simply folded the paper and slipped it into her pocket. Isabella leaned close, whispering, "Promise, stay." Elena stroked her hair. "Every day I'll be here." Isabella's shoulders loosened as if someone had lifted a weight from her back. The front door slammed. Heavy footsteps climbed the stairs. Isabella's eyes widened, joy replaced with fear. The elegant woman appeared at the doorway, her gaze falling on the crumbs at Isabella's mouth. "Did you eat?" The girl nodded. "Who let you?" Isabella's silence betrayed her. Elena stepped forward. "I did. She was hungry." The smile that spread across painted lips was thin and cold. "Ask permission next time. She has rules. Dinner will be ruined." Isabella shrank, confused, caught between the two women. The woman's voice dripped honey. "Quiet now, darling. Play alone while she works." But as soon as she left, Isabella edged closer, trembling, and lifted her sleeve. A faint red mark stained her skin. "Hurts," she whispered. Elena swallowed her rage, pulled the child into her arms, and answered softly, "Whenever someone hurts you, you can tell me. You're safe with me." Isabella buried her face against her shoulder, clinging tight, as though she had finally found a place where her pain might matter. That night, as Elena left the mansion, the echo of Isabella's small voice followed her into the dark. "She said Papa will give me away." And Elena knew the little girl was in danger, and she was the only one who could keep her safe.
The next morning, sunlight slipped through the tall windows, but inside the house the air was heavy. Elena entered quietly, expecting to find Isabella at the kitchen table. Instead, she heard a thud upstairs, followed by a sharp command. Her pulse quickened. She climbed the stairs, pausing at the doorway of the child's room. There stood the stepmother, polished hair and flawless dress, her hands gripping the girl's arm too tightly. Isabella's face twisted in pain as she stumbled, blocks scattering across the floor. "Faster!" the woman snapped. "Your father hates mess." The child scrambled to obey, whispering apologies, her small hands shaking as she tried to gather every toy at once. Another block slipped from her fingers. The woman's voice cut like glass. "Look at you, always clumsy." She yanked Isabella's arm again, leaving red marks across the soft skin. Elena's breath caught. Every muscle in her body told her to step in, yet she stayed rooted, knowing one wrong word could cost her the chance to protect the girl. She forced her tone calm. "I can help tidy up," she offered. The stepmother turned, eyes narrowing, then let go of Isabella with a forced smile. "Good, that will save time. The girl needs to learn discipline. She cries over nothing." Her heels clicked across the hardwood as she left the room. The moment the door shut, Isabella lifted her sleeve, showing the angry mark. Her eyes shimmered. The child's voice was fragile, a broken string. "She told me if I tell Papa, he'll send me away." Elena's throat tightened. She gathered Isabella close, whispering steady words she prayed the girl would believe. "Your father loves you. He will never give you away." Isabella searched her face, desperate for reassurance, then slowly nodded, though doubt lingered in her eyes. Minutes later, the sound of a phone call drifted from the hallway.
The stepmother's voice was sweet as honey. "Yes, darling, everything's perfect. She ate well, played all day. Our little angel is thriving." Elena's stomach turned at the lie. She looked at Isabella, still clinging to her, and silently vowed to remember every detail. When the day ended, Elena gathered her things. At the doorway, Isabella tugged her sleeve. "Will you come back?" Her voice quivered with fear. Elena bent down, kissed the child's forehead. "Every day," she promised. Isabella gave a small smile, the first flicker of light after a long storm. As Elena stepped into the fading evening, she heard the stepmother laughing into the phone, telling a story about a perfect home that did not exist. Behind that laughter lay cruelty. Behind the walls, a child lived in silence. And Elena knew the battle was only beginning. The next morning carried an eerie calm. Elena arrived early, hoping to catch Isabella smiling, but instead she found the girl still in her pajamas, sitting alone on the staircase. Her hair was tangled, her eyes swollen from sleep. Elena knelt in front of her. "Why aren't you dressed, sweetheart?" Isabella shook her head. "No one helped me." From the living room drifted the familiar, syrupy tone of the stepmother on the phone. Elena paused, listening. "Of course, Leonardo. She slept like an angel, already had breakfast, now she's playing. You don't need to worry, everything is under control." The words sounded tender, but the truth sat just behind Elena, a hungry child clutching her stomach. Isabella whispered, "Hungry." Elena held her hand. "Let's fix that." In the kitchen, she cracked eggs into a pan, the butter hissing. Isabella's eyes lit with hope as she perched on a stool waiting. Elena lowered her voice. "Do you want toast with your eggs?" "Yes." The girl's answer was soft but sure. Elena smiled, sliding the plate toward her. Isabella devoured each bite, finally sighing with relief. Yet the laughter outside turned sharp, and Elena heard the stepmother's voice harden. "I can't stand this, Mother. Every time I look at her, I remember he had a life before me. She survived, my baby didn't. I know it isn't her fault, but I can't forgive it. If Leonardo sees her improving, he'll realize I don't care for her. Maybe it's better she goes to a special school, away from here. Then we can have the family we were meant to." Elena froze, the spatula trembling in her hand. She looked at Isabella, unaware of the cruel words aimed at her. The child licked her fork, content for once. Moments later, the stepmother swept inside, her smile sharp as a blade. She noticed the empty plate. "Already eating? Didn't I say she has a schedule?" Elena steadied her voice. She was hungry. The woman's tone turned cutting. "Hunger isn't an excuse for disobedience. If she eats now, she'll spoil lunch." Isabella shrank back, clutching her shirt. "I was just hungry," she murmured. The woman leaned close, eyes narrowing. "Finish quickly and go to your room." Isabella obeyed, scurrying upstairs. Once she was gone, the stepmother lowered her voice, speaking directly to Elena. "You seem like a good person, but don't get ideas. Isabella needs limits, not coddling. I decide what's best for her, not you. Your job is to clean, not raise her." Elena bit back her anger, nodding silently. The woman smiled with satisfaction and descended the stairs. Not long after, the crash of toys echoed above. Elena rushed up to find Isabella scrambling to gather scattered blocks. "I told you to be careful," the stepmother scolded. The child stumbled, panic in her eyes. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean." A sharp shove sent her tumbling to the floor. She whimpered, clutching her arm. "Stop crying. Your father hates whiny children," the woman snapped. Elena knelt beside Isabella, lifting her carefully. A red mark already blossomed on her skin. The girl whispered, "She pushed me." Elena's hands trembled as she washed the arm under cold water. "You are brave," she whispered back. Isabella looked at her with wide eyes. "If I tell, she says Papa won't love me." Elena pulled her close. "Your father's love is stronger than any lie." But as she tucked the drawing the girl had made into her pocket, a picture of herself small and crying beside a tall, angry figure, Elena knew the danger was growing. The mask of sweetness the stepmother wore for Leonardo hid a darker truth, and Isabella was running out of time.
That afternoon, the house was unnervingly quiet. Elena moved from room to room with her cleaning supplies, listening for Isabella's laugh, but only silence answered her. When she climbed the stairs, she found the girl's bedroom door locked from the outside. Tiny fists pounded weakly against the wood. "Tina, help me." Elena's chest tightened. She searched the hallway until she spotted the key left on a side table. With trembling hands, she turned it, the door swinging open to reveal Isabella curled on the floor in her pajamas. Her eyes widened when she saw Elena, and she stumbled into her arms. "She locked me," the child sobbed. Elena stroked her hair. "Why?" Isabella sniffled. "I asked why Papa never talks to me. She got mad." The words cut deep. Elena swallowed her anger and whispered, "You did nothing wrong." She led the girl downstairs, intending to make her breakfast, when the sound of tires crunching on gravel made Isabella's head snap up. "Papa!" She darted to the front hall just as the heavy oak door opened. Leonardo stepped inside, briefcase in one hand, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Isabella, you're awake early." The girl ran to him, clinging to his waist. "Papa, I was locked in." His face stiffened. "Locked in?" Footsteps clicked down the stairs. The stepmother appeared, elegant as ever, voice smooth as silk. "Darling, you're back. I thought you were working late." He frowned. "I forgot some papers." His gaze returned to his daughter. "What's this about being locked in?" Isabella clung tighter. "I only asked why you don't talk to me." Her voice was barely audible, but the question hung in the air like a blade. The stepmother's laugh rang out brittle and rehearsed. "She was having a tantrum. I put her in her room to calm down." Isabella shook her head, whispering, "I wasn't bad." Leonardo crouched to meet her eyes. "We'll talk tonight, Princess, I promise." Hope flickered across her face, the promise shining brighter than the lies she'd been forced to believe. Elena stood in the corner, watching every detail. The stepmother's smile faltered when she noticed Isabella's joy. She tried to pull Leonardo's attention back. "You see how difficult she can be, always questioning, always restless. Sometimes I wonder if she needs professional help." Her words were honey laced with poison. Leonardo straightened, slipping the papers from his case. "She's just a child." His voice carried a firmness Elena had not heard before. Before leaving, he kissed Isabella's forehead. "Tonight, we'll talk." The girl's face lit up, her whole body trembling with excitement. After he left again, she twirled toward Elena, whispering, "He promised. Papa will talk to me." Elena hugged her, forcing a smile, while inside her heart ached. She knew promises could be broken too easily in this house. But for Isabella, that simple hope was everything. The belief that her father would finally listen kept her smiling all afternoon. And Elena, watching her carefully, prayed that Leonardo's words would not turn to dust, because a child's faith could not survive many more broken nights.
The days that followed began to change the rhythm of the house. Elena refused to let Isabella's hope fade. Each morning she arrived with a smile, carrying not just her cleaning tools, but small lessons hidden in her pockets. She set Isabella at the kitchen table, placed bread and fruit before her, and began gently. "Do you know the days of the week?" Isabella shook her head shyly. Elena tapped each card. "Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday," the girl repeated, stumbling but determined. Soon numbers followed. Elena placed blocks in a row, guiding her tiny fingers. "Count with me," Isabella whispered. "1, 2, 3." She reached 20, beaming as though she had climbed a mountain. Elena clapped softly. "You're brilliant." That word, brilliant, lit Isabella's entire face. No one had ever told her that before. She leaned against Elena's arm, whispering, "Teach more." That evening, as they sat together on the rug, Isabella tugged at her sneakers. Elena tied them slowly, showing each loop and knot. "Now you try." Clumsy fingers fumbled, but finally pulled tight. "I did it!" she squealed. At that exact moment, Leonardo appeared in the doorway, papers in hand, frozen by what he saw. His daughter, who had always been described to him as incapable, was tying her shoes with a grin brighter than sunlight. "She's been learning so fast," Elena said quietly. Isabella jumped up. "Papa, I can count! Watch!" She raced through numbers all the way to 20. Leonardo blinked, stunned. "Where did you learn that?" "Tina taught me," she replied, glowing with pride. For the first time, Leonardo looked at his daughter not with pity, but with awe. He sat beside her, lifting her onto his lap. "You're amazing, princess." Isabella clutched his shirt, smiling so wide it nearly broke Elena's heart. Later, when Leonardo tucked his daughter into bed, she whispered, "Papa, are you proud?" His eyes softened. "More than ever." She nestled into the pillow, whispering again, "Tina made me brave." Leonardo's throat tightened. Standing in the doorway, Elena saw the truth dawning in his eyes. For the first time, he realized his little girl had always been capable. She had only been waiting for someone to believe in her.
The next day began with an unease that lingered in every corner of the house. Isabella had woken quietly, her usual eagerness dimmed. Elena noticed the way she kept her eyes down, her little hands twisting together. When she asked if Isabella wanted to practice numbers, the girl only whispered, "No, not today." Before Elena could press further, the stepmother swept into the room, perfume heavy, her voice low and deliberate. She crouched before the child, cupping her chin with fingers that looked gentle but pressed too hard. "You talk too much," she said with a false smile. "Your father comes home tired. Do you want him to be tired because of you?" Isabella shook her head quickly. "Then be quiet. Good girls stay quiet. If you chatter and laugh, he'll grow sick of you." The words fell like stones into the child's heart. At lunch, Isabella sat stiff at the table. Elena served her soup, trying to catch her eyes. "Do you want bread with it?" The girl whispered so softly it was almost silence. "No." She ate in silence, shoulders hunched. The stepmother praised her coldly. "See? Much better. Calm, quiet, no nonsense." Elena's stomach twisted. That afternoon, Leonardo returned earlier than usual. His briefcase hit the table as he stepped into the kitchen. "How's my princess today?" Isabella froze, spoon hovering, then forced a small smile. "I'm fine." Her voice was barely more than a breath. Leonardo frowned. "You're so quiet. What happened?" She looked at her stepmother, who stood behind him with folded arms. The woman smiled sweetly. "She's learning discipline. Isn't that right, love?" Isabella nodded quickly. "Yes." Leonardo knelt beside her chair. "You don't have to whisper. Tell me what you want." Isabella hesitated, lips trembling. Then she leaned close, eyes darting nervously. I can't tell. It's a secret." Leonardo's brow furrowed. "Who told you that?"
The child's eyes flicked again to the figure behind him, who gave the slightest shake of her head. "I can't," Isabella whispered, and her voice cracked with fear. Elena's heart ached as she watched the exchange. Leonardo rested a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Whatever it is, remember, I'll always listen. You can tell me anything." Isabella swallowed hard, but the weight of the secret pressed her lips shut. She only nodded, clinging to his hand as though it was the last safe place in the world. Leonardo rose slowly, his gaze lingering on his daughter, troubled by a silence that was far too heavy for a child. Behind him, the stepmother's smile returned, polished and cold, as though she had won some invisible battle. But Elena could see the truth. Isabella's spirit was shrinking, crushed beneath whispered lies that her father was too weary to see.
That evening, the house felt like it was holding its breath. Isabella sat on the edge of her bed, her small shoulders drooping, her eyes fixed on the floor. Elena entered softly with a folded blanket, but what caught her attention was the silence. Normally, the girl would light up, eager to share something new she had learned. Tonight, she didn't even raise her head. Elena knelt beside her. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Isabella shook her head, lips pressed tight. Then, barely a whisper, she said, "She told me Papa is tired of me." Before Elena could answer, footsteps echoed in the hall. The stepmother appeared, leaning against the doorway with her arms crossed, smile sharp as glass. "Good girls don't burden their fathers," she said, eyes on Isabella. "If you keep talking too much, he'll stop loving you." Isabella's face crumpled, but she forced herself not to cry. The woman's voice softened to a poisonous whisper. "If you want him to love you, stay quiet. No more silly stories, no more noise. Understand?" The girl nodded quickly, fear clouding her eyes. Later, at dinner, Isabella barely touched her food. She sat straight, silent, her fork moving mechanically. Leonardo looked across the table, puzzled. "Why so quiet tonight, princess?" Isabella lifted her eyes, then dropped them again. "I'm fine." The stepmother spoke smoothly before Leonardo could press. "She's finally learning discipline. Isn't that wonderful?" Leonardo hesitated, watching his daughter's downcast face, then nodded slowly. After the meal, Isabella slipped from her chair and retreated upstairs without a word. Elena followed, finding her clutching a crayon drawing under the blanket. She pulled it out gently. It showed 3 figures: a tall man, a woman with yellow hair, and a small child with no mouth. Elena's throat tightened. "Why no mouth, sweetheart?" Isabella whispered, "Because Papa likes me better quiet." Later that night, Leonardo entered the room carrying the papers he had forgotten earlier. Isabella looked up with wide eyes, hope flickering for just a moment. "Papa, can I ask, do you love me even if I talk?" The question stunned him. He sat on the bed, pulling her close. "Of course. I love you always. Your voice is beautiful." Tears welled in her eyes. She wanted to believe, but fear silenced her again. She only nodded, tucking her face against his chest. The morning began deceptively calm. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen tiles, and Elena hummed softly as she worked, trying to steady her nerves. Isabella sat nearby, scribbling shapes with her crayons, her small hands stained with color. For a brief moment the house felt almost safe. But upstairs, behind a closed door, the stepmother was setting her plan into motion. She unclasped a gold bracelet from her wrist, polished it with a cloth, and tucked it carefully into the dish towel Elena always used for cleaning. Her lips curved into a smile that never reached her eyes. "Let's see how long it takes," she murmured. Moments later, she called down sweetly, "Elena, the counters need a good wipe. Use the towels in the drawer." Obedient, Elena reached for the linen. As she shook one open, a sudden clink rang out against the tile. The bracelet clinked on the floor just as the stepmother entered. "What's this?" Her voice carried shock so rehearsed it stung. Isabella froze, wide eyes darting between them. "I don't know," Elena said, bewildered. "It fell from the towel." The stepmother's tone sharpened. "You expect me to believe my jewelry just hides itself in cleaning rags? Isabella, did you see her with it?" The girl trembled, remembering the warning. Secrets must be kept. Her voice shook. I saw Tina holding it." "That's all we need," the woman declared triumphantly. "Caught red-handed. A thief in my own house." Elena's eyes burned with tears. "No, I never... It dropped, I swear." But her pleas fell against a wall of lies. The woman's arm swept toward the door. "Pack your things. You are finished here." Isabella's lip quivered as she watched Elena's face collapse in despair. The child whispered, "No," but the stepmother's glare silenced her. Elena bent down, forcing a smile through her tears. "It's all right, sweetheart. Remember what I told you? You are brave. Don't forget that." She touched the girl's cheek before gathering her small bag. As the door closed behind her, Isabella burst into sobs. The stepmother crouched low, her voice dripping venom. "You should be happy. She was bad. Now she's gone." Isabella shook her head fiercely. "She wasn't bad. She lied. She stole, and you saw it." The girl covered her ears, crying harder. In the hallway, Elena's footsteps faded, leaving the mansion colder than ever. Isabella pressed her face to the window, watching desperately as the only person who had protected her disappeared down the long driveway. The stepmother stood behind her, smiling with satisfaction. Her plan had worked. For the first time in days, Isabella's hope had been ripped away, and Elena was gone.
That night, the air in the mansion grew thick with unease. Isabella sat curled on the couch, clutching her worn doll, her eyes red from crying. Leonardo returned late, loosening his tie as he entered. "Where's Elena?" he asked casually, expecting to see the housekeeper in her usual place. The stepmother stepped forward with feigned sorrow. "I had to let her go." He frowned. "Why?" She held up her wrist dramatically. "I caught her stealing my bracelet. Even Isabella saw it." Leonardo turned to his daughter. "Is that true, princess?" The girl froze, torn between fear and the memory of the warning. Her voice cracked. I saw Tina holding it." Leonardo crouched beside her. "Did you see her take it?" Silence. Isabella looked at her stepmother, then back to her father. It fell from the towel." Leonardo's brow furrowed. "From the towel? How did it get there?" The woman cut in quickly. "Because she hid it there. You can't trust a thief." But Leonardo's eyes never left his daughter's trembling face. "Princess," he said softly, "did Elena really steal it? Tell me the truth." Tears spilled down her cheeks. She shook her head. "No, she didn't." The room fell silent. The stepmother's face stiffened. Isabella clutched her doll tighter, voice breaking. "She put it there. She told me not to tell. But I can't lie to you, Papa. Fabiana put it there." Leonardo rose slowly, his chest heaving. He turned to his wife. "Is this true?" She scoffed, her voice sharp. "She's confused. You know she makes up stories." But Isabella's cry cut through her denial. "I don't make stories. She said it was our secret." The words rang heavy, impossible to ignore. Leonardo's jaw tightened. He stepped closer to his wife, his voice low with fury. "You framed an innocent woman. You used my daughter in your lies." She reached for him, desperate. "I was protecting us, protecting you." He pulled back, disgust etched into every line of his face. "No, you were protecting yourself, and you hurt the one person who needed you most." Isabella pressed her face into his shirt, sobbing. "Papa, bring Tina back, please." Leonardo held her close, his eyes blazing with resolve. "I will, princess, I promise." He looked once more at his wife, her mask crumbling, then turned away. Without another word, he gathered his keys and headed for the door. The sound of it slamming echoed through the halls like a verdict. For the first time, the truth stood in the open, and nothing in that house would ever be the same again.
Leonardo drove through the city streets with a storm in his chest, headlights sweeping across rows of shuttered shops until he finally spotted her. Elena stood at a modest food stall, ladling hot stew into plastic containers for workers on their way home. Her hair was tied back, her hands steady, but her eyes carried the same sorrow he had seen when she walked out of his house. He stepped out of the car and called softly, "Elena." She turned, startled, the ladle frozen in her hand. "Mr. Leonardo, why are you here?" He took a step closer, voice raw. "To apologize. To beg your forgiveness. Isabella told me everything. She said it was all a lie, that my wife planted the bracelet." Elena lowered her eyes, swallowing hard. "I knew it was a trap, but who would believe me?" He shook his head, guilt heavy in his voice. "I should have. I failed you. More importantly, I failed my daughter." For a moment she was silent, torn between relief and pain. Then Leonardo whispered, "Please, come back. Isabella needs you. I need you." Elena glanced at the steaming pots, then back at him. "If she truly needs me, I can't turn away." They drove back together, and when the mansion door opened, Isabella's small voice broke the silence. "Papa?" She appeared at the top of the stairs in her nightdress, eyes wide. When she saw Elena behind him, she ran down, feet barely touching the steps. "Tina!" She flung herself into Elena's arms, sobbing into her shoulder. "You came back! You promised!" Elena kissed her hair. "I keep my promises." From upstairs came the muffled sound of a suitcase snapping shut. The stepmother appeared in the hallway, her face pale with fury. "So you chose her over me?" Leonardo's reply was steady. "I chose the truth. I chose my daughter." She tightened her grip on the suitcase handle, voice trembling between anger and desperation. "You'll regret this." But Leonardo only shook his head. "No, what I regret is not seeing sooner who you really are." Silence filled the house, broken only by Isabella's steady breathing against Elena's chest. Leonardo bent down, placing a hand on his daughter's back. "It's over, princess. You're safe now." Isabella looked up, eyes shining through tears. "We're a family?" Leonardo nodded. "Yes. From now on, nothing will tear us apart."